What's going on, guys? JPS back for another video, and today we're going to be reacting to Stephen Fry on political correctness. So Stephen Fry, there's a lot of people who are smart out there, but not many can express their thoughts in the way that Stephen Fry does it. And also, to call Stephen Fry smart, it's a bit disrespectful because he's not smart. He's next level. This man is a walking dictionary, a walking glossary. I don't know, like, his brain is just different. But Stephen Fry on political correctness. So political correctness is a phenomenon that we've checked out in the past. I'm speaking more specifically about Ricky Gervais. But Ricky Gervais addressed political correctness more in the comedy landscape and about being a comedian and how that affects him. Stephen Fry, or this thing right here, I'm assuming is more about PC culture as a whole. And for those of you who are out living, I'm sure you've seen how PC culture has permeated into kind of the secular opinion throughout a lot of different, throughout most of the world. Maybe not most of the world, but definitely in the United States, okay? Like, this has had a really significant impact on me, especially among younger generations and more progressive areas and progressive environments. PC culture has definitely taken over. Like, I don't know when the switch was flipped to where it's become illegal to be offended. Like, I don't really know. I don't get that. Like, people try and paint someone as like a perpetrator or a villain just because they said something that offended them, when in reality that person is just exercising their freedom of speech. That's why we have that, and I'm really glad we do. So political correctness, oftentimes I think I associate it more with progressive things and trying to make those the only thing that's okay, right? And that's just not fair, because those aren't the only opinions that are out there. So it's definitely not the best, definitely not a good thing, and something that we need to work on. Like, it's hard because younger generations, I think, tend to be a bit more progressive. And, I'm part of that. Like, I can be a really progressive person, but there's certain things where it's just like, this is not helping us. Like, can't do anything anymore. So I want to hear what Stephen Fry has to say on this. Of course, I want to hear what Stephen Fry has to say about anything, because I love listening to him. But this isn't just a Stephen Fry love session, bro. We're actually trying to see what's going on with this political correctness and get real deep into it. So buckle up, guys. Hit that like button. Hit subscribe. Consider joining the Patreon. First link in description for full reactions to British shows and movies. On that, we react to QI, which Stephen Fry was a host on, and I mention that every time. But lots of other British shows as well. Faulty Towers, Only Fools and Horses right now. It's a banger of a show. But anyways, let's get right into it.
Now, in agreeing to participate in this debate and stand on this side of the argument, I'm fully aware that many people who choose incorrectly, in my view, to see this issue in terms of left and right, devalued and exploded terms as I think they are, will believe that I am betraying myself and such causes and values that I have espoused over the years. I've been given huge grief already simply because I'm standing here next to Professor Peterson, which is the very reason that I am standing here in the first place. I'm standing next to someone with whom I have, differences, shall we say, in terms of politics and all kinds of other things, precisely because I think all this has got to stop. This rage, resentment, hostility, intolerance, above all this with us or against us, certainty. A Grand Canyon has opened up in our world. The fissure, the crack, grows wider every day. Neither on each side can hear a word that the other shrieks, and nor do they want to. While these armies and propagandists in the culture wars clash, down below in the enormous space between the two sides, the people of the world try to get on with their lives, alternately baffled, bored, and betrayed by the horrible noises and explosions that echo all around. I think it's time for this toxic, binary, zero-sum madness to stop before we destroy ourselves.
Damn.
I'd better nail my colours to the mast before I get any further in this. It's only polite to give you a sense of where I come from. All my adult life, I have been what you might call a lefty, a soft lefty, a liberal of the most hand-wringing milksop, milk-toast variety. Not a burning man the barricade socialist, not even really a progressive worth the name. I've been on marches, but I've never quite dared wave placards or banners. Am I a loathed member of that band, an SJW, a social justice warrior? I don't think highly of social injustice, I have to say, but I character myself mostly as a social justice warrior. My intellectual heroes growing up were Bertrand Russell and G.E. Moore, liberal thinkers, people like that, writers like E.M. Forster. I believed, and I think I still do believe, in the sanctity of human relations, of the primacy of the heart and friendship and love and common interest. These are more personal, interior beliefs than they are political exterior convictions, more a humanistic version of a religious impulse, I suppose. I trust in humanity. I believe in humanity. I think I do, despite all that has happened in the 40 years of my adulthood. I am soft, and I can easily be swept away by harder hearts and harder intellects. I'm sometimes surprised to be described as an activist, but over time I have energetically involved myself with what you might call causes. I grew up knowing that I was gay. Well, in fact, from the very first I knew I was gay. I remember when I was born looking up and saying, that's the last time I'm going up one of those. I'm Jewish. I'm Jewish, so I have a natural, obviously, horror of racism. I want racism, misogyny, homophobia, transphobia, xenophobia, bullying, bigotry, intolerance of all humankind to end. That's surely a given amongst all of us. The question is how such a golden aim is to be achieved. My ultimate objection to political correctness is not that it combines so much of what I have spent a lifetime loathing and opposing, preachiness, with great respect, piety, self-righteousness, heresy hunting, denunciation, shaming, assertion without evidence, accusation, inquisition, censoring. That's not why I'm incurring the wrath of my fellow liberals by standing on this side of the House. My real objection is that I don't think political correctness works.
Okay, I'm sorry, bro. I have to pause it. First of all, I feel really bad for whoever has to face him. Second of all, that's just the preface. Do you guys hear this? Like, he goes into such depth about his own background, his own thoughts. He's saying, I'm liberal. Listen, I want all of it gone too. PC culture is not the way. That's why I'm standing over here. And just like the way he addresses everyone. Oh my God. This is like art. I don't even know how to. Anyways, let's keep going. We haven't even started. Like, that's the craziest part.
I want to get to the Golden Hill, but I don't think that's the way to get there. I believe one of the greatest human failings is to prefer to be right than to be effective. And political correctness is always obsessed with how right it is without thinking of how effective it might be. I wouldn't class myself as a classical libertarian, but I do relish transgression. And I deeply and instinctively distrust conformity and orthodoxy. Progress is not achieved by preachers and guardians of morality, but, to paraphrase Yevgeny Zemyatin, by madmen, hermits, heretics, dreamers, rebels, and skeptics. I may be wrong. I hope to learn this evening. I really do think I may be wrong. But I'm prepared to entertain the possibility that political correctness will bring us more tolerance and a better world. But I'm not sure. And I would like this quotation from my hero Bertrand Russell to hover over the evening. One of the painful things about our time is that those who feel certainty are stupid, and those with any imagination and understanding are filled with doubt and indecision. Let doubt prevail. it's interesting to hear that there really doesn't seem to be a problem, but yet I think we all instinctively know that there is some kind of problem. There isn't censorship. Of course not in the way that there is in Russia. I've been to Russia. I faced off with a deeply homophobic and unpleasant man, and there's political correctness in Russia. It's just political correctness on the right. And that's what I grew up with, political correctness, which meant that you couldn't say certain things on television. You couldn't say fuck, for example, on television, because it was incorrect to do so. And as always, the same reason was that someone would appear and say, I'm not shocked. Oh, of course, no, I'm not shocked. I'm not offended. I'm offended on behalf of others, young, impressionable, plastic minds, the vulnerable. And that's not good enough. It's so often people are saying, you see, I don't mind being called a faggot or a kike or whatever, or a mad person, because I've got mental health issues. I don't mind people insulting me. And people say, well, that's all right for you, Stephen, because you know you're strong. Well, I don't feel particularly strong, and I don't know that I like being called a faggot and a kike particularly, but I don't believe that the advances in my culture that have allowed me to marry, as I have now been for 3 years, to someone of my gender, I don't believe they are a result of political correctness. And maybe political correctness is actually just some sort of live trout, that the harder we squeeze it, the further it goes away. And you will be saying, I'm not talking about political correctness, you're talking about social justice, with which I agree with, whether you want to call it identity politics or the history of your people, the history of my people were slaves as well. Both the British were slaves of Romans and the Jews were slaves of the Egyptians. All human beings have been slaves at some point, and we all, in that sense, share that knowledge of how important it is to speak up. But Russell Means, who was a friend of mine towards the end, who founded the American Indian movement, he said, oh, for God's sake, call me an Indian or a Lakota Sioux or Russell. I don't care what you call me. It's how we're treated that matters. And so I'm really addressing a more popular idea. Also, actually, in Barrow, Alaska, an Inupiat said, call me an Eskimo. It's obviously easier for you because you keep mispronouncing Inupiat. You know, words do matter. I'll just end with a quick story. Gay rights came about in England because we slowly and persistently knocked on the door of people in power. We didn't shout, we didn't scream. People like Ian McKellen eventually got to see the Prime Minister. And when the Queen signed in the royal assent, as she has to, for the bill allowing equality of marriage, she said, Lord, you know, I couldn't imagine this in 1953. Really is extraordinary, isn't it? Just wonderful. And handed it over. Now, it's a nice story, and I hope it's true, but it's nothing to do with political correctness. It's to do with human decency. It's that simple. Yeah. It's nice. I'm still very lost about why we aren't talking about political correctness. We're talking about politics. And
All right. So just a comment I had to make. This is actually a 2-hour debate. Okay. On the original debate, I don't know who exactly the people are who he's debating, but in the comments, a lot of people were talking about how it should have just been Stephen Fry and Jordan Peterson because the opposing side was just saying a bunch of nonsense, basically. So this video, I'm presuming, is just Stephen Fry's parts in the debate, which is fine. So that's why it may seem a bit scattered and things like that, but either way. He's going crazy so far, though. Oh, my gosh. And it is true. Like, you don't have to say something for the image. It's about saying something because it's coming from the heart. And you shouldn't have to step around coals or do this. We just be able to say things how they are. But humans saying things how they are? No.
Yeah. It's nice. I'm still very lost about why we aren't talking about political correctness. We're talking about politics, and that's fine. And I share exactly what you think about it. I'm not an enemy of identity politics per se. I can obviously see where it goes wrong and where it's annoying. Let's be empirical about this. How well is it working for you in America at the moment? Not well at all. Really isn't.
Right.
You can answer me in a moment. The reason that Trump and Brexit in Britain and all kinds of nativists all over Europe are succeeding is not the triumph of the right, it's the catastrophic failure of the left. It's our fault. We absolutely... My point is not that I've turned to the right.
I'm sorry, bro. I would give you a moment, Stephen, but I gotta talk. This is such a fact. Okay, like I said at the start of this video, I think a lot of people in my generation have progressive views. It's normal when you're younger to be a bit more progressive. But if we're talking specifically about the United States, we could talk about Britain a bit as well, but I'm not going to do that. The Democrats in the United States just constantly just make themselves look like fools. And Democrats will completely agree with this because it's just a fact. Like, I don't know what is going on, but it's like we have some good ideas and things going on, and then it's just like, what are we doing? And the people in power that are associated with the Democrat Party or Democratic Party, whatever it's called, bro, are just like clowns, complete clowns. And I'm not saying that the Republicans are any better or whatever. Like, all politics is just like a circus to me, because that's what it is. But I just wish that side wasn't as crazy as the other side, if you get what I'm saying. But it is. It really is.
My point is not that I've turned to the right or anything like that, or that I'm nice and fluffy and want everybody to be decent. I'm saying fuck political correctness. Resist. Fight. If you have a point of view, fight it in the proper manner, using democracy as it should be, not channels of education, not language. It's so silly. But there's a chess rule, In chess, the best move to play in chess is not the best chess move. It's the move your opponent least wants you to play. At the moment, you're being recruiting sergeants for the right by annoying and upsetting, and instead of either fighting or persuading. But political correctness is a middle course that simply doesn't work.
Well, first of all,
my point. Of course, I recognise the bestiality of Weinstein and the monstrosity of his behaviour, and it was shocking to me. I actually worked for him, script doctoring, as it's called. I never had the bathroom towel, but for pretty obvious reasons. But it's, grotesque, and I can't imagine how vile it must be for such a powerful man, and he was. I used to play a game at the Cannes Film Festival where, in his years of power, we're walking from one hotel at the end there, all the way up to the Palais de Festival. You would get 10 points every time you heard the word Harvey. And you'd usually, a 10-minute walk, you'd have 300 points. Because it was, Harvey's got the script, Harvey's got it. I've got a meeting with Harvey at the Majestic in the afternoon. He was immensely powerful. And I think that's obvious that someone in that position, abusing and threatening and hindering the livelihood of women is grotesque in the extreme. But I have to tell you, there is genuine feeling amongst many people I know that we can't speak our minds. We can't actually speak to the true nuance, the true depth of sexual, romantic feeling between men and women. It's not a subject I'm absolutely expert on, but it counts between men and men as well, though I know when it's men and men, you might say, well, that's different because women have had a different experience in history, and I don't want to enter that particular field, but I would say that there is real fear in my business, which is where this all started, show business, acting, and so on. People are rather afraid to speak about a piece of, publicity that's come out or a statement that's been made. You just go, absolutely, and wait for the people to leave the room before you can speak honestly with your friends. And I've never experienced that in my entire 60 years on this planet. This feeling that. And I'm not characterizing feminists as in East German, but it's like that, the Stasi are listening. You better be careful, they're listening. And that's a genuine feeling. I'm saying that with my hand on my heart. I'm not saying it to...
I'm sorry. This is so true. Let me give y'all a little anecdote right here. So, I'm at university, right? And political correctness has become pretty big in universities across the United States, especially those... I guess less conservative universities, of course. And this is just so true. Like, now that I think about it, that exact situation has happened to me multiple times where, something will be said or some event will happen, whatever the case may be, whether I'm in a lecture or just something of that nature, right? And everyone is just completely quiet on it, but once you just separate into your little cliques and groups, then you whisper about what you really think. And that's like that's so true. Like I can pinpoint like 10 different situations probably within the past month. I mean, honestly, if I think hard, I probably get it within the last week where this happens. And it's just like this thing, we're all aware of it, but we don't talk about it because there's this big like cloud over us, which is what PC culture is. And it does really restrict you, and that is not good. And like when I first was presented with this idea of anti-PC culture, I was kind of hesitant to even agree with the idea of being anti-PC culture because of like I thought that was like speaking out or whatever the case. Like I don't know what we're afraid of really. I guess confrontation, being seen as the bad guy, getting wow, bro, this guy. Oh my God.
Listening. And that's a genuine feeling. I'm saying that with my hand on my heart. I'm not saying it to make a point other than the fact that it's true and it's worrying. But the sexual misadventures and horror experience is worrying too. So there are two worries. And I think people will look back on this debate and wonder why political correctness wasn't discussed. I said it was slippery. I mean, it's interesting to hear talk about race and about gender and about equality, and it's something that I've thought about a lot and I can learn a great deal about, but that's not why I came to this debate. I was interested in what I've always been interested in, the suppression of language and thought, the closing down, the rationalist idea that seems beguiling, that if you limit people's language, it may somehow teach them a different way of thinking, something that would have delighted the inventors of George Orwell's Newspeak, for example. And it seems to me it's just implausible. It doesn't work. And that's what I mean by empirical. It doesn't stand an empirical test. It isn't experientially validated, as we see from the political landscape now, and I worry that we may in the future. So I'm sort of disappointed that the subject has just revolved around academia, which was predictable, because that's the sort of crucible in which these elements are mixed. But even more disappointed that really I haven't heard from Michelle or from Professor Dyson as to what they think political correctness is, because what they've talked about is basically saying progress, in our view, is progress. Well, I agree. That's, yeah. So it is too, and good on progress. But how is it that you're saying that what we call political correctness, you call progress? That's what you're supposed to be arguing. I want to know what you mean by
the internet.
Names.
No, but I mean,
point. I'm scared. If I listed,
but
that's
again,
the point.
You're scared.
It is a culture of
right.
fear.
I understand there's that element of fear. What I'm saying is that it's a feeling. It's a feeling that is this sort of intangible result of primarily.
We've all seen the sort of show trial thing where the person then apologizes. I have so much to learn about sexual politics. I am really sorry. Signed a lawyer, crossed out the name of the person. You think the real mistake of our left is that we underestimate the right. The right isn't as stupid as we'd like them to be. If only they were. If only they weren't so cunning, so sly, so smart, so aware of our shortcomings. And I just fear that political correctness is a weapon that they value. That the more we tell the world how people should be treated, how language should be treated, what words are acceptable, what attitudes are acceptable, what HR meeting is going to tell you in a long bullet-pointed list about how you look at people. All of this is meat and drink to bad people, to malefactors, to bad actors. I'm not counting myself as one of those bad actors in that sense. I mean bad actors in the other sense.
Right, So there are, like I said, there are a lot of ways in which I agree with you, although I would like to hear, I mean, to turn it back on you, I would like to hear you say, you know, what are the words that have fallen into disrepute that you think we should be resurrecting, right? I mean, to me, this is this area of like hotly contested social change right now, where a lot of people feel
it's about words that have gone into disuse. It's very often phrases, jargonistic slogans, heteronormative, cisgendered, those kind of things. They're just an insult. You know, imagine you're a young student arriving at university and someone's bombarding you with this preposterous hermeneutical nonsense from misread textbooks, misread Foucault, if I may say, and misread Derrida, and so on. Because I was at Cambridge, England, doing English literature. We had our French phase, and there's value in that. It's an interesting game, and it is. It's a place to. I think I'd just really say that the ghost hovering over me is. It's a letter Oscar Wilde wrote, and he said to Bosie, his love, he said, the fact that you didn't get a degree is nothing, but you never acquired what is sometimes called the Oxford manner, and I'll say for that, the university manner. Oscar said, I take that to mean the ability to play gracefully with ideas. I think that's disappearing from our culture, and I think it's a terrible thing.
Let's go to Michael.
There we are. I'll hide behind the lectern in that case. Well, I've been fascinated by this conversation. There's been an enormous clash of cultures in the conversation. We've had, you know, classic, if I can call it, huckstering snake oil pulpit talk, which is it's a mode of discourse. It's a rhetorical style that I find endlessly refreshing and vivifying. But I'm not sure that we actually focused on the point in question. And
oh my God!
My objection has always been towards orthodoxies. I'm a heterodox and a contrarian, and I can't help myself. And I think there's been an underestimation of the fact that language does affect people. It does make the young, in particular, as they're starting out on their educational or their work careers, it makes them very anxious. It makes them very angry, very upset, very alienated, to feel that they don't know anymore how to operate in the world, how to engage in relationships, how to think honestly. So they accrete more and more to their own mini groups. And I think that's dangerous and unhappy for society. I think it's reflected in a paucity of cinema and literature and art and the culture generally, is that there's a fear that's pervading it. And while people can talk to academia and say, you should come and see our lessons, our lectures are open and free and ideas are exchanged. I'm sure that's true. I'm sure it's true, but I don't think we should underestimate how much this feeling is prevalent in the culture of this strange paradox that the liberals are illiberal in their demand for liberality. They are exclusive in their demand for inclusivity. They are homogeneous in their demand for heterogeneity. They are somehow undiverse in their call for diversity. You can be diverse but not diverse in your opinions and in your language and in your behavior. And that's a terrible pity.
I can't do this anymore.
So,
my God.
I would say that I'm sorry that it got a bit heated in places, because I was hoping it wouldn't. I was hoping it would be a shining example of how people of all different kinds of political outlooks can speak with humor and wit and a lightness of touch. As G.K. Chesterton said, angels can fly because they take themselves lightly. And I think it's very important for us, who are privileged, all four of us, privileged to be here, to be asked to be here, to take ourselves a little bit more lightly, not to be too earnest, too pompous, too serious, and not to be too certain.
Bro! Oh my God. That's so true. Like, this honestly has made me think differently about political correctness. Now I want to be a warrior for change. I don't know if I have energy to be arguing with people like that, but I'm about to just start saying whatever I want. Whatever.
It's a time, I think, for really engaging, emotionally fulfilling, passionate and positive doubt. That's what I would urge. Thank you. I'm worried that I was being a little kind of scattergun, really, and that both scattergun and too specific, that I had just taken very literally the popular idea of political correctness as being a kind of control of language and a shutting down of certain phrases or an introduction of others, and the kind of day-to-day, as I say, human resource departments of corporations and that sort of thing, and so I was slightly disappointed that it just became a debate about race and about gender and so on. And, but that was, I guess, natural. And I still, the fact is I'm still a lefty, but a soft one. I just don't have...
Well, not too soft.
Flabby, squashy in every sense. And I realize that that's not a political point of view. It is a personal one.
Right.
And the gap between the personal and the political, which is a space you obviously are very interested in as a psychologist, is one that is rarely explored. People are either so personal that it has no application in the outside world and the organization of human affairs, or they're so political and so much to do with structure and distinction between hierarchies and networks and so on, that they forget the individual. And that's the space in which the impassioned liberal lives, and it's not easy to do it because you often do sound rather wet, and I'm aware that I did. But I enjoyed it.
Yeah, really thank you for coming. Just finally, before I free you two both to a well-earned drink, anything left unsaid, Jordan? Any point that you wanted to make that you didn't feel you had the time or the opportunity?
No, I don't think so. I said my piece, yeah.
Great. Same question to you, Stephen.
I know, I think I got across. I mean, there's so much you can talk about in that field, and I just wanted to leave with the point that I do want, like everybody, it's a no-brainer. We want the world to be fairer, juster, sweeter, kinder, but it's how you get there, and I felt that wasn't really addressed.
Okay. Well,
Oh my God. So yeah, honestly, I'm really glad we were able to check out just this video rather than the entire debate, because it sounds like the debate itself was not really a debate on political correctness like Stephen was talking about. We didn't see any of Jordan Peterson, but I'm presuming he took part in the debate alongside Stephen. But I wanted to say, completely unrelated to political correctness, Stephen Fry and Jordan Peterson are a great example, because Jordan Peterson believes in God, Stephen Fry doesn't. Yet through that, they're able to explore their differences and still be friends. Like, that's so important. I feel like that shuts a lot of people off immediately, that religious thing, but that's just not right. You should have people with differing opinions around you in your circle. It's really important. So, but yeah, on the topic of the debate, like, that was just incredible. It wasn't really much of a debate. It was just kind of a snipped up monologue, but still really interesting to listen to. And I hadn't really thought about political correctness. Like, it's kind of this thing that you just brush off and you're like, oh, everything will be all right. But it's much more insidious than that, and we need to attack it head on. And by we, I mean my generation, because we're the ones who have really spearheaded this entire movement, and we're the ones who can take it away, because we're the future. Like, we literally can realize our potential right now and slow this down and, start making change, or start creating movement in more efficient and useful ways. Because this PC culture is not efficient or useful. It's literally just hurting us, stopping us. What's the point? It's just so stupid and ridiculous. So yeah, and that's something, those words right there, it's so stupid and ridiculous. That's what I was afraid to say when I was first brought into the PC culture, like, arguments, When I first heard about Ricky Gervais or watched that video of him arguing against PC culture, I was like, what do I do? Do I agree with it? Like, I do agree with it, but am I allowed to say that? And that's literally what PC culture is. So really, I feel super liberated right now. I feel like there's a lot we can do. So I'm I'm pretty passionate about this. I didn't really realize I was until now. So I think I'm going to try and get something sorted up, get a little grassroots movement going, and see what we can do. Definitely nothing political, because screw politics, but something good. We'll see. I don't know. I feel like empowered right now. I sound like the people who are enforcing all these PC culture rules. Okay. Anyways, I really appreciate you guys watching. Please leave your thoughts in the comments down below. What do you think about Stephen Fry, about what he said? What do you think about PC culture? What do you think about what I said? And most importantly, what do you think we can do to bring down PC culture? Because what you think about it is cool and all. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of you guys who agree with me and Stephen Fry. I'm presuming most of the people will, because you guys are sensible on this issue. But what do we do? Like, how do we... What's the next move, you know? Because it's one thing to agree or disagree with something, but how are you going to take... What actions are you going to take to bring about the change you want to see? All right, bro. This man got me preaching now, too. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next one.